1 year ago, Donald Trump made a dramatic return to the White House, stepping back into the role of president after a fiercely contested election and a period of deep national division. His comeback was nothing short of historic, capturing the attention of the world and reigniting passionate debates across the country. Supporters celebrated what they saw as a triumphant return, filling stadiums and city streets with cheers, banners, and hope for a new chapter. The energy was electric, and for many it felt like a turning point, a chance to reset the nation's course. But now, on November 8, 2025, the atmosphere inside the West Wing is heavy and subdued. The optimism of a year ago has faded, replaced by uncertainty and concern. Staffers move quietly through the halls, weighed down by the challenges of the past months. The United States is only just beginning to recover from the longest government shutdown in its history, a crisis that brought federal operations to a standstill for weeks on end. The effects have rippled far beyond Washington, leaving businesses shuttered, government workers unpaid, and entire communities struggling to cope. For millions of Americans, this wasn't just another political standoff. It was a daily battle to keep food on the table, pay rent, and make ends meet. Food banks saw record demand, families cut back on essentials, and the sense of insecurity grew with each passing day. The shutdown has become a defining test of President Trump's leadership. News outlets across the country have been filled with headlines questioning his decisions, while poll numbers have shifted dramatically. Americans are watching closely, and many are voicing their frustration and disappointment. The consequences are being felt in every corner of the nation. It's not just a political crisis, it's a personal one, touching families, workers, and small business owners. The shutdown has exposed deep anxieties about the economy and the government's ability to function in times of crisis. President Trump's trademark confrontational style, once a rallying point for his base, has now collided with the harsh realities of governing. Even some of his most loyal supporters are beginning to question whether his approach is helping or hurting the country. As he marks the first anniversary of his return to power, the numbers are stark. Approval ratings have dropped to historic lows, and the nation is left wondering what comes next. The shadow of the shutdown lingers, casting doubt over the future of his presidency and the country's path forward. The data is clear. Polls across the board are painting a sobering picture for President Trump. As numbers roll in from every major polling organization, a consistent story emerges. The president's standing with the American public is slipping, and fast. These aren't just isolated blips or outliers. The trend is unmistakable and growing more pronounced with each new survey. President Trump's approval is in freefall, with the latest figures showing a sharp and sustained decline that's hard to ignore. The numbers are not just low, they're historic for this stage of a presidency. A recent CNN poll puts his approval at just 37%, with a striking 63% of Americans disapproving of his performance. This marks the highest disapproval rating of his presidency so far, and it's a number that's sending shockwaves through Washington. Other major polls echo this downward trend. The Economist YouGov poll, for example, shows Trump at 39% approval, a figure that's barely budged despite weeks of high-profile events and policy announcements. NBC News, often seen as a bellwether for national sentiment, reports his approval at 43%. Even this relatively higher number is well below what most presidents enjoy at this point in their terms. When you look at aggregated polling averages, the story remains the same. Trump's approval rating hovers stubbornly around 42 to 43%, with little sign of meaningful recovery. Historically, these numbers are strikingly low compared to past presidents at this point in their terms. The gap between Trump and his predecessors is not just a matter of a few points, it's a chasm. Obama, Bush, and Clinton all enjoyed significantly higher approval ratings 1 year into their presidencies, often well above the 50% mark. Their higher numbers reflected broader public support and a stronger mandate to govern. Trump's disconnect with the public is stark. An approval rating below 40% is widely considered a danger zone for any incumbent, signaling not just dissatisfaction, but a potential crisis of confidence. Such low approval ratings often translate into legislative gridlock, as lawmakers become wary of aligning themselves with an unpopular president. It also spells vulnerability for his party in the upcoming midterm elections, where control of Congress could hang in the balance. These numbers are more than just a political report card. They're a warning sign that Trump's political capital is evaporating at a rapid pace. Advisors and allies are growing increasingly anxious as the president's ability to push his agenda weakens. The White House now faces a presidency in real trouble, with approval ratings that threaten not just Trump's legacy, but the future of his administration and party. The next moves will be critical as the nation watches, and the numbers continue to tell a story of mounting challenges ahead. The recent government shutdown was the longest in U.S. history, directly impacting millions. What started as a political standoff became a crisis for federal workers, contractors, and small businesses. By the end, 36% of Americans reported being affected, a sharp rise from the start. The shutdown's consequences spread nationwide, disrupting everything from Social Security checks to national parks. Trump's gamble to force Democrats' hand backfired, misreading the public's mood. Instead of rallying support, the shutdown fueled frustration and anxiety, becoming a symbol of government dysfunction. The public's patience for political brinkmanship has run out. When the government shuts down, blame is inevitable, and this time it's landing squarely on President Trump and Republicans. An NBC poll shows 52% blame Trump and the GOP, while only 42% blame Democrats. Even among independents and some Republicans, frustration with Trump's tactics is growing. The president's high-profile role made him the face of the crisis, and the public sees his approach as reckless, not strong. This distribution of blame is driving his approval ratings down. Losing moderates and independents is turning a stable base into a shrinking one. For many, the shutdown wasn't a noble fight. It was chaos and failed leadership. Poll after poll now reflects this verdict. Beyond the shutdown, economic anxiety is dominating American life. Nearly half the country says the economy and cost of living are the top issues, with over 70% rating conditions as poor. Most families feel their income is falling behind, and over half say it's harder to pay for basics than 6 months ago. This economic pessimism is directly linked to Trump's falling approval. 2/3 believe his administration has failed on the economy, a devastating blow to his campaign promises. The shutdown only made things worse, disrupting paychecks and deepening financial uncertainty. For many, watching the government shut down over politics felt like a betrayal. Economic pain is personal, and voters are holding the president accountable. The promise of prosperity has given way to frustration and blame. With Trump's approval at new lows, attention is turning to the 2026 midterms. Democrats now hold an 8-point lead on the generic congressional ballot, their largest since 2018. Voter enthusiasm is unusually high, with most seeing the election as a referendum on Trump. 40% want to send a message of opposition, outpacing those who want to show support. This gap is a red flag for Republicans, who face a tough environment in competitive districts. If these trends hold, the midterms could dramatically shift power in Washington. Trump's agenda and his party's future hang in the balance. While the economy leads concerns, the health of American democracy is a close second. Over a quarter of voters cite it as their top issue, a rare level of focus on democratic norms and institutions. A majority believe Trump has undermined the Constitution more than protected it, with his rhetoric and actions fueling unease. Even some Republicans are wary of federal overreach and blurred lines between civilian and military roles. For many, elections are now about defending the nation's character, not just policy. This sense of urgency is driving high voter engagement. For these voters, the ballot is about the future of democracy itself. Despite Republican struggles, Democrats aren't basking in public affection. Both parties have negative favorability ratings, reflecting deep dissatisfaction with the political establishment. Only 37% view the GOP positively, but Democrats fare even worse at 28%. Democratic gains are driven more by opposition to Trump than genuine enthusiasm. This creates a volatile landscape, with many voters feeling politically homeless. Swing voters are frustrated with both sides, demanding more than just anti-Trump rhetoric. The challenge for both parties is to offer real solutions, not just blame. Winning the future means addressing economic anxieties and restoring trust. The data paints a clear picture, one that is both sobering and urgent. Across the nation, Americans are watching the numbers with growing concern as approval ratings for the president continue to slide. The mood in Washington is tense, and the uncertainty is palpable. Trump faces the most perilous moment of his second term, a period marked by mounting challenges and dwindling support. The weight of the presidency has never felt heavier, and the path forward is clouded by doubt. The government shutdown, coupled with deepening economic worries, has created a perfect storm of disapproval. Across the country, moderates and independents, once open to compromise, are turning away, frustrated by the lack of progress and the growing sense of instability. With approval ratings now stuck in the high 30s, the president finds himself in a precarious position. The numbers are more than just statistics. They reflect a nation's anxiety and a leader's struggle to regain trust. His political capital is nearly spent, making legislative wins increasingly unlikely. Allies in Congress are growing restless, and opposition voices are growing louder, sensing an opportunity to push back against the administration's agenda. The 2026 midterms are shaping up as a referendum on his presidency, with the potential for major losses looming large. Every decision, every misstep, is under the microscope. Trump's resilience is legendary, but even his most ardent supporters are watching closely, wondering if he can weather this storm. This crisis is rooted in economic pain and government failure, issues that are far harder to spin or deflect. For many Americans, the impact is personal: lost jobs, shuttered businesses, and a sense that Washington is out of touch with their daily struggles. The next year is critical, a turning point that will determine not just the fate of the Trump presidency, but the direction of the country itself. The clock is ticking, and the stakes could not be higher. The administration faces a daunting challenge. Can it address the nation's economic concerns, restore confidence, and avoid further chaos? The answers will shape the political landscape for years to come. If not, his approval may remain trapped in the danger zone, risking a political earthquake that could upend the balance of power in Washington and beyond. The numbers are a warning, a signal that time is running out for decisive action and real solutions. The future of Trump's presidency and the entire political landscape hangs in the balance as the nation waits to see what comes next.